Hi there, this is Floating in Books. In this video, I'm going to be chatting about Japan and answering some frequently asked questions while doing my makeup and getting ready for the day. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. Today, I have an easy breezy concept for you. I'm going to be doing my makeup, and in the meantime, I'm going to be chatting to you about my Japan trip. It's been just over 2 months now that I've been home. It's close to 2 months now that I arrived back in the Netherlands, so I've had some headspace, and I will be answering some questions that a lot of people were asking in the comments on some of my videos that I posted. So if you have any questions about Japan, maybe this video can also be helpful to help you make some decisions of how you want your trip to go. So let me grab everything. I've got my hair tied up today because it's hair washing day today, and I just need to get that done. So I need to grab my makeup and then we can get chatting. The first thing you need to know about my Japan trip is that it was years in the making. I got some questions asking me why I decided to go to Japan, and the reason was very, very easy. I had quite a few people in my day-to-day life, friends, family, who either lived there or who either went there on vacation themselves, and it made, like, I saw their pictures and it made me want to go as well. It's pretty much as simple as that. Of course, once I started planning my trip, I really got into the algorithm with Japan-based videos over on TikTok, which, again, it did give me some ideas, but most of the ideas I had for the trip actually came from people around me, more so than what you find on social media. And that's why I want to do this video, because I feel that a lot of the videos on social media are wrong about Japan. There are so many things that I feel people get wrong who make Japan content, and I have found that the minute someone has a lookg discount code, you can't really trust what they're telling you to do. I think that Japan is also a destination that quite a lot of people go to who are influenced by social media and who want to go for like the matcha experience, and they're just going to all of these super popular places, but they're not experiencing Japan, you could say. It's like the bad kind of tourism. And I feel like there's quite a few bad tourists around in Japan, and it's always my aim when I travel. Ooh, this is the last little bit of my lip balm, you guys. I'm using it up right as we speak. It was a long time coming. I think I've been using this thing for like 2 years, so here is that last little bit. But yeah, so I think that that's one of the reasons also why there's quite a few like bad like information about like people not liking tourists and stuff. I think that tourists are fine as long as they try to adapt, and that's one of the things I think that Japan is currently suffering with, is quite a few tourists who are bad at adapting to the situation that they're in. Like, they just want the hyped up stuff. I literally walked around Ginza in Tokyo, and everybody was right at the cross section that social media tells you to stand in order to get a good picture of a certain pagoda. You literally like walk around the corner and you can get the exact same picture, but with less people. It's absolutely crazy. It's literally one of those destinations where if you don't go where the crowds go, you will find the best food, no lines, whatever it is. Everybody who's been claiming that Japan is just crazy busy, yes, it's crazy busy. And I think if you go cherry blossom season, it's going to be a lot busier than when I went over the summertime, because that's sort of like not the most popular season to go to Japan, of course. But I think that it's really not that bad if you plan well, and if you are just savvy and you don't necessarily go where all the crowds go. Of course, you want to do the touristy things. I definitely did that as well. But you don't have to do the same thing that everybody else does. And I think that social media is very much a cause for Japan feeling very crowded to a lot of people, especially if you stay a lot in Tokyo. Like, Tokyo is one of the biggest cities in the world, and there are so many people living. I think a third of the Japanese population lives in the greater Tokyo area. So it is already a busy place to begin with. And then if you add all the tourists, it's going to feel very cramped and very crowded. In fact, spoiler alert, my least favorite place in the entire trip was Tokyo. I think that Tokyo is a must-see. There's definitely a couple of places you would want to go. But the only reason why I stayed there for a week was because I had some like day trips and like theme park trips planned that were easier to get to from there. But if that had not been the case, I see so many people recommending Tokyo for at least a week without day trips. And I'm like, why would you do that? Japan has a lot more to offer than just Tokyo. So that would be my first piece of advice. Go beyond the big three. So don't just do Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka. If you can, if you have the time and budget, definitely go to some further out places. They are going to feel a lot less crowded, even though they're just going to be, but they're going to be just as beautiful, I was about to say. So yeah, that's definitely something I think you need to take into account. I got some questions about costs, but I feel that it's so difficult to talk about how much money you would spend, because it's so dependent on where you're flying from, what season you go, how far out you plan the trip as well is going to influence how much you're gonna have to spend, because the closer you book, the closer you are booking to the dates that you want to go, the more expensive it usually gets with travel. So I started planning my trip in December 2024 for a July, early August vacation in 2025. So about 6 months out, which is what I had found and what people who I know in real life have told me that you should do if you want to go to Japan. So it takes a bit of planning. Japan is a very organized country, so things do sell out. But again, if you don't want to go to the Ghibli Museum and you just want to visit loads of temples like I did, there's really no need to stress for things being too busy or booked out. There were only two attractions that I booked pre-arrival, and then I booked the theme park tickets. But to give you an idea of what I spent, and I definitely didn't go for all the cheapest options. I think you can do this a lot cheaper, even for what I ended up doing. But I was traveling by myself, and since I'm a female traveling by myself, I do want to stay in like good areas and at least like decent hotels that have like 3-star ratings, because else I know I'm not gonna enjoy my time. So I'm one of those like better be safe than sorry kind of people, and it was going to be a once in a lifetime trip, so I knew I was gonna spend a little bit more than I normally do when I travel. Just so you know. So flights were around 1,600 euros, but I didn't get the cheapest ticket, and I was flying in the Dutch high season. So Schiphol was going to be super busy, and I didn't even pick like a direct flight. I even had one with a stopover. But those are all things that are going to make things cheaper. Like the longer your layover, the cheaper your flight. I wanted to make sure that I could pick a seat in advance and like travel with some extra luggage, so I paid up front for all of that. And I wanted to get a ticket that I could still change, because I was booking things so far out, what if my plans change? What if something happened and I couldn't make it? So I decided to make sure I could, I had the option to make changes if need be. That's just one big caveat, I think, that goes into things. And then for hotels, I spend roughly the same amount of money. So hotel-wise, I paid roughly 1,600 euros for, 23 nights, I think. So that's less than 100 euros per night, which I think it's okay. I find it reasonable if I pay like somewhere between 80 and 120 euros for a hotel per night. I know things can be very cheap if you stay in hostels and stuff, but like I said, that's not what I wanted to do. A lot of the hotels that I booked included breakfast and stuff, so there were certain amenities that I had already paid for in that sense. So, and breakfast in most of these places was actually really good. Like, there was so much attention to detail. In one of the hotels I stayed at, they had fresh handmade onigiri for breakfast every single day. In another place I stayed at, they were making you a fresh bento plate every morning. Like, there were so many great options, and it was just a great start to the day to not have to go and grab food. Yes, you can go to a konbini very easily, but konbini food will only get you through so far. Konbini food, again, that's something you will find online. You can see all the convenience stores, hacks, and whatnot. I did have food from the Konbini if there was no better option available to me at that time. And Japan has great food. So you don't need to depend on Konbini food. Yes, it can be cheap and cheerful, but I don't think that my body would have liked that all that much. I usually use them to grab a quick drink and a snack if I knew I was going to be out all day and I didn't know if I could have like a sit-down lunch. That's when I would buy from the Konbini, but other than that, I kind of ignored it. And then for like other costs that I made in advance, so hotels and flights, I did decide to get the J-Rail Pass, the JR Rail Pass, that you can get as a tourist. A lot of people have said that since the price hikes, because it has gotten a lot more expensive over the past couple of years to get one. I mean, mine was, I think, 650 euros. But what I see a lot of people do is because they only do Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, then it's not going to be worth it. But if you're going to be doing bullet train journeys outside of those cities, and if you calculate that, I mean, just getting to all of the different cities in which I was staying was already going to come up to 500 euros. Flat rate, no, nothing else, right? So that made the pass worth it to me. There is a calculator on the JR Rail Pass website, so you can do a quick calculation for yourself, but I milked that thing for what it was worth because you can use it on any JR train. Surely, besides bullet trains, there are loads of other trains in Japan that are far cheaper. But if they are also on the JR network, you can still use them. So when I went to Uji, I used my JR pass. I went to the Arashiyama bamboo forest. I used my JR pass. So if you know you're going to be using it for other trips and not just for the travel between cities, I think it can be worth it. So for me, it was the right call and it was super seamless. I ordered it, I think 2 months in advance. I think I got it at the end of May and I was leaving mid-July because you need to take into account with that pass, if you are getting it, that it's... you have to validate it within Japan within 3 months of the date that you order it. So you can't order it too far out. So that's something that I figured out. And then a couple of other things, like I said, that I ordered in advance were theme park tickets. Those were 60 euros each. And I went to 3 different theme parks. So 3 days was 180 euros. And then I did the Skytree and I did the Skytree and I did the Team Labs Borderless experience. That was altogether, I think, 80 euros or something for both of those. And I did get an express pass to Universal Studios because it was going to be hot. And I just didn't want to faff around with being overheating and having to stand in line for 2.5 hours for some attractions. So that's why I got the express pass. I think that was 150 euros or something. So I think I spend like... and pocket Wi-Fi I did get in advance. I decided to go pocket Wi-Fi rather than eSIM because I don't really use my phone all that much for it just being a phone. So I knew that Wi-Fi would be enough. However, what I did do is that I had my phone on flight mode the entire time. And there was a tsunami warning in the area when I was staying there. And I missed the warning because my phone wasn't on because it was in flight mode. So because my SIM card wasn't activated, I didn't get a notification from the Japanese government. So halfway through the day, everybody from back home was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, I didn't even know what was going on because I was in Disney. So it may be good to at least turn on your phone, but switch off roaming if you do use a pocket Wi-Fi. Because I was like, I'm not going to use my phone anyways. And I really didn't. I didn't need my phone a single time for it, just like calls and stuff. Didn't need it at all. So that worked out really, really well. The itinerary I already decided on in December, but it was a rough itinerary. The only thing I knew about 2 weeks before the trip was what places I was staying at. So I had only, based on the stories from friends and family, I made a quick calculation of how many days I'd need in each city, and I sort of booked accordingly. And only about 2 weeks in advance, I really, of course I did book a couple of things that were linked to a date, But this is why I didn't book too many things in advance, because with trips like this, you just never know how things are gonna go. So I didn't want to have like loads of activities pre-booked and then not be able to do them because I wasn't able to get there on time. So I had not very deliberately pre-booked too many things for that reason, and mainly while I was in Tokyo, because I knew that that was a place where I would probably be going, like doing things like shopping, and I wouldn't be doing many other things. I just don't feel like Tokyo is the place to be all that much. So at least not for what I wanted to do in Japan. And then in that itinerary, I used like a travel guide that I got from a colleague of mine. I had, of course, a lot of information through social media on what things to do in each city. So I sort of picked accordingly, and I definitely found a couple of things that were less touristy to do. When I was in Kyoto, for instance, I went to Kamakura, I think I know, Kuramadera, that's what it was called. I keep messing up all the names because some things are so similar. And Kibune, and those places are located on a mountainside outside of Kyoto. And it was mainly locals. There were very few actual tourists there. And that's something I found in A Lonely Planet. So it's still touristy. I mean, it's still touristy, but it's touristy with Japanese people rather than a lot of Westerners or people from other countries, you could say. So that was great. And it was a really lovely hike as well. And it was a good day, you know? Weather-wise, of course, I did go in July and August, which is not the season that a lot of people will recommend you go. To be quite fair, I knew going into the trip that it was going to be hot. So that was my mindset going into it. I didn't want to overfill my days because I knew it was going to be like 35 degrees and clear blue skies every single day for most of the trip. I only had a day and a half of rain. So if you then also have a packed itinerary where you're traveling to, like, I've seen itineraries for Japan done by people. I was like, especially now that I've been there, I just go like, what are you recommending to people? You don't even, like, have you even been there? People will recommend to go to the Arashiyama bamboo forest and a Funari Taishi shrine in the same day, and they're on opposite sides of the city. I'm like, how? It just doesn't make any sense. Ooh, that's my mirror. It just doesn't make any sense. So I definitely made sure that the itinerary I had wasn't overfilled so I could rest my feet and take it easy and look for air conditioning whenever I needed it. And it just, some days I was already like done doing what I wanted to do around 2-3 o'clock. And I was happy with that because it meant I could go back to the hotel, refresh, and then find somewhere to eat for dinner and maybe have a nap or, rest my feet. If you're going to kill yourself in the 14, 15 days, I think that's what most people tend to do. But if you're going to kill yourself like halfway through the trip, it's not going to be very enjoyable. So that would be my piece of advice. If you are going to Japan, don't try to do everything. Make choices and don't pre-book everything. If you have something planned where you need to be at 10 and then again at 1, it may seem very doable on paper, but I just don't know whether you're going to have a really good time. Like I said, there are tons of places to eat in Japan. You don't have to go to all the very hyped up places and do all that. I had great food the entire trip. I didn't pre-book a single meal. I didn't. Sometimes you're going to have to be prepared to whip out your Google Translate in a restaurant because the menu is only in Japanese, but those are the best places. So it can be worth it to go through the hassle of trying to communicate with hands and feet with the local serving staff. I think that's another thing that people are worried about. I definitely got some comments about that as well. Like, what did you do language-wise? I knew 5 words of Japanese and kind of made do with Google Translate and basic English for the most part. Like, some people do speak English, especially if you're in the bigger cities. But I started off in Matsumoto, which is a smaller town, and there was definitely a lot less English around, let me tell you. But it was fun. I really felt that because I started my trip there, it really prepared me for the rest of the trip. And then when you get to Tokyo and there's more people around who can speak English, it just makes life so much easier. And you're just going to dive headfirst into it in your first couple of days. And it was a lot quieter there as well, so I felt it was a great way to just acclimatize. But yeah, the language really wasn't an issue. Most people will try if you try as well. So I've seen people, especially, I'm sorry, Americans, if you're watching this, but they were usually US customers who were just shouting at staff in fluent English, and then these people looked completely helpless. It was insane. I found that the best results I got is if I spoke English with a Dutch accent. They seemed to understand me better if I Dutchified my language and sort of talked really slowly. That got the best results every single time. So again, adapt. If you're going to stand there and talk to people in your perfectly fluent English, people are going to feel lost because your English is so much better than what a lot of people will have there. So you also need to adapt that way. Short, sweet sentences, and try to get the basics down in English. By the end of the trip, I could say some basic phrases as well. I used some TikTok videos to get the pronunciation right of a couple of important phrases, and I made a little phrase bank in my notes app that I studied on the plane every couple of hours. Like every hour or so, I would whip out my little list, and I would go over it in my list in my head and whisper it to myself, and I think that helped. So there's just a couple of phrases that you need to know when you go to any country, and if you can say hello, thank you, good afternoon, and you can ask where the bathroom is in a language that you don't speak, I feel like that's going to help every single time. So yeah, just, adapt. Don't try to do too much. Those would be my recommendations. And you definitely don't need to do the things I did, but I think a lot of people want to know what my favorite thing of the trip was. And it was actually a place that you don't hear anybody talking about on social media, because I feel there's so much that's being recommended in Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto. That's what people recommend. But my favorite place was Miyajima, which is an island off of the coast of Hiroshima. It takes about a 30-minute train ride and a ferry to get there. And it was a blast. It had everything in a single day that I loved about Japan. It had beautiful nature. It's this old volcano that everything is built upon. It's got loads of shrines and temples that you can visit. It's great for hiking. There's a ropeway to the top of the mountain if you want to go to the top, which is what I did because it was too hot for a hike, really. They also have the deer like you have in Nara, but they're not force-fed by tourists, so they don't bother you at all, but there's all these lovely wild deer walking around, so you have that experience as well. It's by the water, there's great food, really, really sweet people, and I found this really beautiful little tucked away cafe that was in a corner where nobody was I just don't think they had a lot of foot traffic there because it was in such a weird spot to be away from all the main traffic. But it had beautiful view of the shrine that Miyajima is known for, and it was, let me tell you, that was the best day ever. I got there on time. I looked up the tide information in advance because the shrine torii is in the water, and it's in the water when it's high tide, and then with low tide you can actually walk around it. So I wanted to go there for both situations, so I planned the trip accordingly. And I really only looked it up the night before. That's usually how I went about my day. I had a rough itinerary that I had made 2 weeks in advance, but I definitely made some changes as I was going along. And because I didn't have anything pre-booked, if the weather was different than I had expected, or if I was too tired, I could very easily sort of pivot and make some changes. But yeah, that was the most perfect day. It had everything in one go that I enjoyed so much about Japan. So for me, that was a big recommendation and not one I see a lot of people talking about. It is touristy though. It is definitely very touristy, but it's not TikTok touristy, in case you want to know. So that was the best day. I ended up doing most of my shopping in Tokyo. That's how I had planned it as well. I put Tokyo at the end of my trip for that reason as well, so I didn't have to lug around a super heavy suitcase to get through the country every single time, because there is limited space on Shinkansens for your luggage. If you cannot lift it in the overhead compartment, which is actually really big. I put my suitcases in the overhead compartment every single time, and it worked just fine. But you do need to take that into consideration, because else you have to either send your luggage with a luggage forwarding service, or you need to pre-book certain seats on the train, and that can be a hassle because those are of course gone really, really easily. So I don't know, it was just, overall I really just had a great time. And I think leaving the shopping for Tokyo was like the best decision ever, because it meant I could go shopping like a little bit every single day. So the first day I was there, I was actually arriving from Hiroshima, which was like a 5.5 hour journey by train, but it went super well. So I was there early afternoon, and I bought a souvenir for my mom, and just got a couple of bits. I just did a bit of browsing around the Sensoji area, which is, again, super touristy, but it is a must-see. And I actually went back there to buy a couple of other souvenirs before I went home, so that was super lovely as well. And then I think I did like Shibuya, Harajuku, and Shinjuku in a single day, because I wasn't staying in that area, and that's something that I would also recommend in Tokyo, to not stay in those super touristy places. I was staying in a place called Asukusabashi, which was close, like it was about a 25-minute walk away from Sensoji, so it was more on that side of the city, closer to the Tokyo Skytree. But what I liked so much about that area was that it felt very residential. There was a supermarket across the street, there was a ramen place where I had dinner across the street, and closer to the subway station, there was 2 lines going from there. One of them was a JR line that took you to Akihabara in one stop, and that took you then to the Yamamoto line, which is the big circle line of Tokyo, which made it super easy. And then it also had the Tokyo Metro station, which actually has stops at both of the Tokyo airports. So whether you're going to Narita or Haneda, it doesn't matter all that much because this line connects it. The only problem I found with that is that Google Maps doesn't know that yet. So it's on all the signs. You can go to this, like, it just goes from one airport to the next. So especially going into town and going back home, again, I could just hop on a train and stay on it until I got to my airport, which was good. So I also felt like the area was super easy to navigate for that reason. And it was a great way to, get around town and just find all the places where I want to go. You are traveling, like I think the yellow line was there, and that went to Shinjuku as well. That took about 20-25 minutes or so. So it was like pretty central, but away from like the main crowds. And it also didn't have like the super high rises and the crampedness of something like a Shibuya, which when I got there, I was like, ooh, this is not my vibe. Shinjuku felt a little bit better, but that felt a little seedier as well. So I'm not sure whether I would want to stay in Shinjuku for that reason. And I have to say that I just really enjoyed that area as well. Same thing with my Kyoto hotel. That one was about 2 metro stops away from Kyoto Station. But again, really good because it had both buses as well as subways going from right around the corner from the hotel, making it super easy to get around. Super quick and easy. If I wanted to go anywhere by train, I would take the metro to go to Kyoto Station, or I would take the metro up north, for instance, to go on that hike that I talked about. Super easy, super helpful. And with Osaka, I think I wouldn't recommend staying in the area I was staying in. I was really close to East Street, but that's also a bit of a questionable area, you could say. So I think I would recommend staying somewhere else, but the hotel itself felt very safe. It was super easy actually to, again, get to Osaka Station and to get to the metro. It took me half a day to figure this out, but right outside the hotel, if I crossed one street, there was already an access point to some underground malls that also had connections to the metro and railway station. So I didn't actually have to walk through this area if I didn't want to. And that made it super helpful because you were also outside of the sun. Or out of the sun, I would say, because it was indoors. So it wasn't as hot as walking to the station across the street. So that was really good as well about it. So I'm not sure whether I would recommend it per se. If you're easily spooked by things, I don't think you would want to stay there. It was also close to a really big road and stuff, so it was a little bit noisy. But the hotel was fine. I slept comfortably. They had the most amenities as well. They had like massages and a great breakfast and an onsen, and it had a lot of different amenities. So that was a good place to stay. And I do think that if I didn't have the access to the underground mall, I might have not enjoyed myself as much. But yeah, it was a good place to stay. And then in both Matsumoto and Hiroshima, I had, I think Matsumoto was a 10-minute walk to the station, and it was like a 10-minute walk from everywhere. The castle, 10-minute walk. The shopping mall I went to, 10-minute walk. A museum, 10-minute walk. So it was super central to every place I needed to get to. And Matsumoto is a very walkable city. It's really, really tiny for what you would want to do there. And in Hiroshima, I was staying really close to the station as well. Again, a 5-minute walk to a bus stop that took me to the Peace Memorial directly. And it was right across from the station. So it was super easy to get to Himeji and the Miyajima thing I just told you about. So it was great. It was super helpful. Transit in Japan is super easy to figure out, especially if you're already used to using transit in other cities. I mean, I'm Dutch. I don't even own a car where I live because I don't need to. Because again, public transport is pretty decent here as well. It's not as well organized as Japan, I have to say. There were still things that wowed me even as well about how organized things were in Japan. And that just made it super easy to use public transport. But I think if you've never used public transport before, it can be overwhelming really quickly because there isn't like one metro line in Tokyo. There are several, and they all use different payment methods and stuff. So it's a little bit fractured. And I think that makes it a little bit more difficult for most people to know where they need to go. But if you have a Suica card charged, you can just tap in and out. If you have Apple Pay or an Apple Wallet, I think you can even put your Suica card in your Apple Wallet, which makes it super easy. I decided to get the physical card and put money on it every single time because it just made it easier for me. And I have Android, so they don't have that system. But it made it super easy to hop on buses, catch metros, do whatever it is you need to do. And so many people were taking Ubers up to these temples while there was a perfectly fine bus stop right across the street with a bus going every 10 minutes. Even up mountains where there's hardly anybody there were buses going there. Like, I did everything using public transport and it was totally fine. So, yeah, but it takes a little bit more time figuring things out, I think, than most people might be used to. If you're used to taking Ubers a lot or driving a car, it can take some adjusting, I think. But if you're willing to just look things up, and I just use Google Maps. I just used Google Maps for transit information. It was super easy to do and figure out how to get around. So yeah, is there anything else you still need to know about Japan? Maybe you want to know something about the theme parks? Since I did the Express Press in Universal, I feel that kind of skewed my my experience perhaps a little bit because I didn't have to wait in line much a single time. I had timed entry for Super Nintendo World included, so I didn't have to use any of the hacks of like being there super early or anything like that. I did line up for both Disney parks before they opened. Because I wanted to do fast passes for that as well, because I wasn't going to stand in line 2.5 hours for that Frozen ride. I really wasn't. So I know, like that's what I mean with things can definitely be cheaper. If we go back to one of the things I actually started the video off with, of course I still spent money there as well, but that was, I think, I had about 2,500 euros saved, and I just made sure to spend all of that. And I definitely did a lot of things in cash. I only started using my credit card really when I went shopping a couple of times, but even that I did with cash most of the time. Because Japan is a very heavily cash-based country, so make sure you have lots of cash on hand, because it just makes it super easy. If you take a bus and you don't have a Suica card, cash. If you go to a temple, cash. If you go to, like most places will take cash only if it's like an attraction and stuff as well sometimes. So it's just helpful to have it at all times. You can use vending machines really easily, which Japan is filled with. it's very much a cash-based society, so make sure I would just take out money like every couple of days. It did take a couple of tries for me to figure out, especially in Matsumoto, there weren't a lot of convenience stores that had ATMs that I could use with my bank card, so I had a bit of a stressful moment while I was there because I was running out of the money I had taken with me once I got there. I had taken out a bit of money to take with me, for the first couple of days. And then I was like, oh, where can I go? But luckily at the post office, they do have ATMs that accept all bank cards. That was something I found out the hard way. And luckily the post office was right across from my hotel where I was staying. So it ended up working out just fine when I got to Matsumoto. But yeah, the rest of the trip, I was able to use the ATMs at convenience stores all the time. So again, super easy, super helpful. People are really, really kind. And you do want to, of course, just try your best, I think. And yeah, Japan was a blast. I had a lovely, lovely time. But I thought that now that you've seen all the vlogs and you've heard me talk about it in a couple of other videos, I could come on here and share a little bit more about my, the practical side of things, of the planning the trip and all that. And if you were wondering, since I'm a solo traveler, female solo traveler by myself, whether I ever felt unsafe, I never did. People were always kind. I visited busy street festivals where a lot of people were crammed together, but a lot of information will only be in Japanese, and if the police are shouting something through their megaphones, it's going to be in Japanese, and you're going to feel super lost, but you just kind of follow the crowds, and you talk to people here and there, and it's fine. It's absolutely fine. So, yeah, I really had a great time on my Japan trip. I really it was a trip of a lifetime. I planned accordingly for that reason. I budgeted accordingly as well for that reason. Like I said, you can definitely do things cheaper. So I think overall I had spent roughly $3,200 for flights and hotels, and then $4,000 for attractions, rail card, and that sort of thing. So before I left, I had already spent 4,000 euros, I think. And then by the time I got there, I was spending 2,500 euros in total. So I was away for 25 days. So that's 100 euros a day, which I think is quite reasonable. Usually when I budget for trips, that's how much money I think of. And I really, I did everything. That included my business class upgrade to on the way back. That included everything I did, every ticket, every meal, everything I shopped. It included the whole, thing. Again, can you do it for cheaper? Yes, sure. I could have easily spent a couple of hundred euros less on a flight, maybe even 1,000 euros less on a flight if I had chosen a different airline and a different stopover and no luggage or whatever, but it was fine. This was a trip I wanted to have, and that's what I budgeted for and how I planned things. So yes, I definitely think you can do things cheaper. You do. But like I said, there were a couple of conditions that I had going into the trip. Everything worked out fine. Things were super easy. There were just no setbacks the entire trip. None. And I've been on trips like this before, and there's always something. Either my credit cards gets blocked, or I feel unsafe, or things happen with people around me, or you get ill or whatever. I did hurt my knee. I hurt my leg on the day that it was raining in Kyoto. I actually slipped and fell, and I had a big bruising sort of scrape on my ankle, but it was perfectly fine. Once I'd iced it and I'd given my foot a little bit of rest the rest of the day, I was able to do everything again for the rest of the trip. I just had a nasty scrape on my ankle, so oh well. But yeah, overall, it was fine. If you don't know what to pack, whatever season you go, make sure you pack something with long sleeves because, again, Japan's dress culture is quite conservative. So that don't show up in a bra top or anything like that. I don't think they're even going to let you in some shrines if you dress like that. So just don't wear booty shorts and strappy tops. That's something I would recommend. Make sure you're covered. And make sure you bring some laundry detergent from home so you can do a quick hand wash in the tubs that you have in every single hotel room. That's what I did. I sort of packed a capsule wardrobe for myself, and I did a couple of washes of especially some t-shirts while I was there. I had enough bottoms for the entire trip, but I didn't have enough tops because I didn't want to overpack. Also because I wanted to have some space for goodies that I was going to bring home. So yeah, that's everything. If you want to see my haul, that went live on my other channel. And I will also link you to the 3 vlogs I did so you can see exactly what I did in every single city I went to. So thanks so much for watching me here today, and I really hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I will be back with a new video next week. Bye-bye.